Shouldn't an executive producer know more about money than they should about storytelling?
Well, an executive producer, if they're doing their job right, should know just as much about storytelling as they are about money, because whoever giving them the money has an expectation of what story you're going to tell them. So there's a script that they've given you the money for. So it's now your job to deliver that at the price that they gave you. So yes, it's very important you know how to put financing together and know how to deal with banks and loans and tax credits and advances and all of that. On the other hand, the person who's giving you the money has an expectation that the director is going to direct the movie that they bought, and the actors are going to act the movie that they bought. And so the only person that's going to make sure that that train doesn't run off the tracks is the executive producer. So the line producer's real job is, what time is it and are we done? The line producer's job is just make sure, okay, I have this much money to spend on this day and that's what we're going to spend. He doesn't have any creative responsibility, nor should he. It's the UPM and the line producer's job to get it done at the price. So it's the executive producer who has to kind of be the referee between the part that's pulling for money being saved and the part that's pulling for let's do the best movie possible. And that's the director's job, is not to worry about the money. You don't want them to think about money. You want them to think about what's the best movie I can make. And you want your line producer to say, you can't do that because we can't afford it. And so someone has to referee and get the best movie possible for the price. So how do we get the very best movie, the very best art for the price tag that we've been given? That's the executive producer's job. So I don't think you need to know one or the other more. I think you actually need to know, the more you can do both of those jobs, I think the easier it is to mediate.
What's the most common question your students ask you?
I think the most common question my students ask me is, who is the worst actor you've ever worked with? But I think that my students' biggest question is, what do we do when we graduate? What's the world that's out there for them? And I think it's my job to give them the tools to be able to succeed, whether they get hired initially on the line producing side or on the executive producing side, or as a studio executive. A lot of my students go on to be development executives because they've learned how to hear a pitch and to pitch themselves. The thing about pitching is, it's not just when you go to sell it to a studio or a network. You're going to pitch an agent, you're going to pitch a star, you're going to pitch a cinematographer, you're going to pitch an editor. Hey, I want you to come aboard this project. Let me tell you a story. So you're pitching all the time, no matter what part of the business you're in. So to not have that skill to not have that arrow in your quiver is I think a huge detraction to your career, and it would be remiss upon us as filmmaking professors not to give you that.
So the continuation of storytelling, not just within the confines of a 120-page script, but with someone to allow you to come in and pitch to them. Mm-hmm. With someone that you're sending out the script to that's a potential investor.
You know, everything is scary when you leave film school. It's all frightening. Will I succeed? Will I make it? Will I be the one that gets to live out the dream? And I think it's part of our responsibility as experienced filmmakers and professors to try and calm some of those fears by telling them what it's going to be like, to give them realistic expectations, but also to give them enough tools that no matter what situation they get in, whether they're making the movie on their phone for $25,000 or they get hired to do, a $25 million sequel to something, that they have those tools, and all of it comes back to storytelling.
What about the definition of the dream? Do you think it's the same for most of the students? Do you think they're skewed by wanting their picture in Variety, whereas people can be working in the industry, they have work all year long, maybe people don't know them as a household name, but they're still living out being creative, being on a set?
I think the most disappointed you will be in our business if you live for the fame and the fortune. I had to learn that lesson the hard way. Peter Guber was helpful in teaching me that really the reason we do this is the process. If you don't enjoy the doing, if you don't enjoy every part of getting that script ordered into production and then going on a set and then sitting in an editing room or sitting on a mixing stage, that's the part. I got depressed after I saw my first credit on screen. I lied awake all night not understanding why I wasn't happier. And took some therapy and a couple of conversations with Peter Guber to figure out that that wasn't the be-all, end-all, seeing my name on the screen for the first time, which is what I thought it would be. It was the getting to do it, to see my name on the screen, which is also part of why I don't love watching my stuff again. I mean, I think it's the doing that I love, and then when it's over, and I'm on to the next. I want to know what the next challenge is going to be. I don't love watching stuff that's already been made because that was the process then, and I want to find the new process. I want to find the new road to get on.
And do you think your sons saw you, that you instilled that in them somehow, whether it was just by them watching you, because they have this successful channel and so many people set out to have a YouTube channel, they don't reach that level?
I think that my sons had the benefit of being around really good storytellers in their house. Whether it was me, whether it was their mother, who also is in the business of telling stories at Television Movie Network, whether it be screenwriters that were friends of mine. I mean, their godfather runs Marvel Television, and they were blessed to hear him tell stories all the time. And then we made it a point to, you can't come home from school and just say, it was a good day. You got to tell me a story. So I think they were indoctrinated with storytelling at a young age, and I think they were blessed to have really good storytellers around them telling stories that they could hear it and soak it up like little sponges. And they went to really good schools that taught them how to be good storytellers as well. That definitely helped. Both of their colleges are great liberal arts colleges. I'm a big believer in not going to film school as an undergrad. I don't think you learn what you need in undergraduate film. I think if you want to take a graduate course, if you want to go and get an MA or MFA, that's great. And I think AFI and USC and NYU and UCLA are great. AFI the best. But I don't think as an undergrad that's what you should be doing. I think as an undergrad you should be taking literature and architecture and art classes. I mean, I can tell you I don't use my film school knowledge anywhere near as much as I use my undergraduate Brandeis degree. I will tell you that if I'm sitting with a composer, I'm not going to talk about frames per second. We're going to talk about Bach and Beethoven and talking heads. I mean, that's what a musician wants to talk about. Well, that's stuff I learned in college, not in film school. If I'm with a set designer, what I learned in my one architecture class comes in handy. When I see with a screenwriter, what I learned in English lit and history and social studies and politics, that all comes in handy. Not, how much does it cost to put a light on a set and what are the fringes for a screenwriter? That's important, and I love my AFI education. But if you're going to be a good filmmaker and a good storyteller, you really do need a liberal arts education.